Greetings, I'm Cyber Erectus. Here is my review of the Apple TV Plus Isaac Asimov's Foundation Season 1 Episode 6, titled Death and the Maiden. First, I would like to give a standard spoiler alert disclaimer. If you haven't watched Episode 6 yet, please pause now and watch the show and come back to hear this review later. Thank you. I'll give a brief synopsis of the episode, followed by a meandering review with ancillary background about the Asimov Foundation universe. I'll also briefly discuss the music scores of the TV series. Without further ado, here is a recap of Episode 6. Brother Day, Cleon 13, arrives at the Maiden, the holy moon of luminism. He pledges to build a moon-wide desalination project for clean drinking water. His generous gesture is an attempt to support the moderate Zephyr Gilad and intend to undermine heretical Zephyr Halima. Nevertheless, Halima regains popular support with an enlightening eulogy of the late Proxima Opal. Her theological thesis is subtly but highly critical of the soulless Cleon genetic dynasty. Back on Trantor, Brother Dawn, Cleon 14, bears his deepest secret to Azura Odile. He has color blindness, which deviates from previous Cleons of perfect genetic copies. Dawn and Azure's budding romance is inflamed by the sharing secret of mysterious minor genetic deviations. At the moment on Terminus, the Anacrean marauders capture Aegis Commander Dorwin from the wreckage. Farah forcibly recruits specific members of Foundation Equiting with necessary knowledge and skills to repair a derelict warship, Invictus, the legendary Imperial planet killer. Anacreans have rediscovered the ghost ship and now plan their revenge against the Empire. Rescued by two Foundation children, Salver escapes the city. Then, she meets up with her father Abbas and her Thespian lover Hugo. Together they decide to destroy the Anacrean corvettes in order to strand those invaders on Terminus. On her way to take a wind reading before the attack, Salver suddenly suffers with a vault-induced seizure. It gives her the revelation of the murder of Hari Seldon. It was in fact planned by Hari himself. Originally, Hari planned for Rach that after killing Hari, Rach would escape the Deliverance by a pre-programmed stasis pod. Due to Gaul stumbling on the scene of the crime, Rach had to give up the escape pod to Gaul instead. While Salver is paralyzed with the revelatory vision from the vault, her father Abbas sacrifices himself to blow up the corvettes. Episode 6 concludes with Farah and Anacrean warriors capturing Salver and Hugo. They are forced to pilot Hugo's merchant trade ship to the Anther Belt together with the Foundation repairing crew. This episode has 3 story arcs. The first arc involves Brother Day, Cleon 13, with many socio-political intricacies and symbolisms. Cleon 13 lands on the Maiden, expecting a grand welcoming parade. Instead, only one single delegate, Zephyr Hamila, greets him and offers him a cup of water to share. He cautiously declines her passive-aggressive gesture due to safety protocol against untested drink. Later, there is a smaller, cozy indoor reception where Brother Day meets with Zephyr Gilad. Her servant carries with her 2 cups of precious water. She offers one to Day and one to Gilad. The subtlety of the contrast between how Zephyr Gilad and Zephyr Halima treat the scarcity of water is insightful, pertaining to their respective greeting etiquettes with Brother Day. The first story arc is subtly commenting on just how different elites and plebs experience their thirst for life. During the eulogy, Zephyr Halima exposes her theological objection to the idea that clones of an individual have souls. She believes that reincarnation of souls is akin to evolution of life. Such a process is infinite, thus cloning equals stagnation. Her perspective is very similar to the warning by Hari Seldon during his trial. The second story arc involves that of Brother Dawn and Brother Dust. There is something a little odd with Cleon 14, the teenage Brother Dawn. He is often out of sync with other Cleon clones. He is quite fearful and tries to cover up his left-handedness and colorblindness. It's a relief for him when he finally meets Azura Odile, someone he could confide with. Brother Dust is a little suspicious of Brother Dawn. He is actively spying on Dawn with multiple agents, a courtesan and a shallow master. The third and final story arc involves Salver Hardin. There is a strange telepathic connection between Salver and the Vault. During her multiple visions, Salver seems to be physically represented by different people. In an earlier episode, she seems to see from the perspective of Hari Seldon, interacting with Rach as a young boy. In this episode, Salvor is in the body of Gull, or at least from her perspective sometimes. On a nostalgic side note, there is a scene where a child greets Abbas as Mayor Hardin. Hearing his title is very heartwarming to an old fan of Isaac Asimov's first Foundation novel. I'm sorry to see that Mayor Abbas Hardin has to sacrifice himself to save his daughter, Warden Salvor Hardin, and the Foundation as a whole, but I'm hopeful she will carry forward his legacy. So that concludes the review portions of Episode 6. I will proceed in further discussions about the music of the TV series and ancillary background of the Foundation universe. By now, it's well past the halfway of the first season of the Apple TV Plus series. The audience has enough time to germinate and appreciate Bear McCreary's Foundation opening theme. It kinda grows on you and sounds much better after repeat listenings as the TV season goes on. Why is that, you may ask? It's all about math. According to McCreary, in the explanations of how he composes the opening theme with the behind-the-scenes video titled The Music of Foundation, McCreary describes his usage of the Selden Black computer music app, which composer Jonathan Snipes has built for him. It employs generative music algorithms that randomly produce snippets of music phrases based on McCreary's parameters controls of note range. Surprisingly, it's only his first electronica-influenced, or more precisely computer-generative music. Now changing the subject to the ancillary background of the Asimov Foundation universe. Right at the very beginning of Episode 6, the Imperial jump ship approaches the Maiden, the holy moon of luminism. Waking up right after the interstellar hyperspace fold, Brother Day is a little startled when he sees two spacers afloat weightlessly, getting close to assist him. Later on, in a private conversation with Ito Demerzel, he refers to the spacers as engineered humans. Inspired by this innocuous comment, I would like to reminisce about the spacers' civilization as described in Isaac Asimov's novels. Spacers are integral parts of the Asimov universe. Now I shall give a secondary spoiler warning. The following contains stories about Asimov's robot saga. If you intend to read about the nature of spacers and robots yourself, please pause now and come back later. Thank you. Now I will begin the background history on the formation of the Galactic Empire. This history is adapted from the original source materials by Johnny Pez of Asimov Online. The rise and fall of the spacer worlds can be traced over a series of stories and novels written by Isaac Asimov over 5 decades. Together they have become the interrelated stories of the Robot Empire Foundation universe. Asimov's Robot Saga narrates the forgotten prehistoric human history of the periods between the fall of the terrestrial Empire and the formation of the emerging Galaxia, the first galactic empire. Following the discovery of hyperspace jump, the spacers are colonists of the technologically advanced outer worlds, which pioneered the initial interstellar explorations by humanity. At first, around 30 extrasolar colony worlds have been dominated, both politically and economically, by Mother Earth, under harsh rule of the Terrestrian Empire. Gradually, the balance of power begins to shift in favor of the outer worlds due to their growth in population and advances in automation. In contrast to Earth, the outer worlds do embrace automation wholeheartedly. Robots are introduced on the outer worlds first. A new culture with a roboticized economy eventually takes hold and surpasses that of Earth. Paradoxically, Earth begins to retrench and ceases to establish new colonies. Meanwhile, the outer worlds begin to take the exploration initiative themselves. The outer worlds continue to grow, eventually to nearly 50 worlds. The outer worlds later establish immigration quotas, but as Earth's population continues to grow and food shortages get worse, the overpopulated Earth is increasingly in peril. A growing movement on Earth is to call for the outer worlds to accept more immigrants in order to relieve the stresses of the Earth's ecological pressures. Meanwhile, the spacers have recently freed themselves from the Earth's tentacles. Their reversal of fortune together with the original inferiority complex are turning the spacers to a new aggressive superiority complex. Now war is imminent. The outer worlds eventually declare independence from Earth. The 3 Weeks War, later known as the Great Rebellion, results in the outer world's total victory over Earth. Mother Earth is soundly defeated by her offsprings. Breaking off all contact with Earth, the outer worlds begin to enforce isolation of the Earthlings within the Sol sector, the original solar system of Earth. No one is allowed to communicate between the outer worlds and Mother Earth. The resounding defeat and imprisonment within the Sol sector changes the psyche and culture of Earthlings. In order to meet with the growing challenges of overpopulation, Earth adopts the draconian birth control policy, and for increased industrial robotization, people on Earth begin to live in the cities of massively enclosed mega-metropolises, transforming themselves into economically independent, socially parochial, physically isolated silos. Nearly 1,000 years have passed. Living conditions on Earth and the outer worlds are now toward polar opposite extremes, just as Earth's cities grow even more crowded and resources are nearly exhausted. On the outer worlds, the spacer communities grow more and more diffuse. For instance, on the planet Solaria, 10,000 people are thinly scattered across the world, with intermittent interpersonal contact reduced to only a few actual meetings per lifetime. This isolation between Earth and the outer worlds endures. Gradually, both have become nothing more than myths to each other. The spacers have erased their historical records of anything pre-hyperspatial travel, when all of humanity exists only on Earth. A typical spacer knows nothing about Earth, apart from some mythical, extremely biased folklore about the era of the Terrestrian Empire. The turning point finally comes 1,000 years after the 3 Weeks' War. An Auroran roboticist named Raj Sartan becomes curious about Earth and petitions to re-establish contact with Earth. After the contact is re-established, and Sartan now discovers that the city society on Earth is approaching a crisis point. Upon reflection, he concludes that the society of the outer worlds is also approaching a crisis point, though not as immediately as that of Earth. He realizes that the two societies are mirror images of each other, moving toward opposite, yet equally destructive, extremes. The solution is to create a combination of the two. The extremes will cancel each other out, leaving a vital center to carry on human civilization. The fastest way to create a fusion of the cultures of Earth and the spacers will be to settle new worlds with a combination of a roboticized economy and a civic social structure. Immigrants from Earth cities will provide the societal framework, while robots from the spacer worlds will provide the economic basis. Earth's government knows as well as Sartan that the cities are nearing a crisis in their development. Encouraged by Sartan, Earth's leaders begin introducing robots into the cities, creating the disaffected class of individuals that Sartan anticipates. He had originally hoped their disaffection would entice them wanting to emigrate. Regrettably, such individuals show no desire to emigrate to any new colony worlds. They simply become bitter and antisocial. After 25 years, Sartan realizes that he's missing something. In order for his plan to work, he needs a better idea of how Earthlings think. Finding out, however, will necessarily involve going into the cities and living among the Earthlings, something that no spacer can do for physical as well as psychological reasons. Sartan's solution is to build a group of androids with positronic brains. These humanoid robots will not suffer either physically or emotionally from close contact with Earthlings as typical spacers do. Sartan constructs a prototype android named R. Danny Lolival. Decades have passed. Eventually, the people of Earth emerge from their cities and begin the colonization of new worlds. However, one important feature of Sartan's plan has been abandoned. The Earthlings' fear and distrust of robots proves too great to overcome. The new worlds will be settled without the use of robots, as the Earthlings and their new colonist descendants, the settlers, expand into space. Their new skills and habits of thought cause a technological renaissance, and they become cutting-edge experts in terraforming, computerization, hyperatomics, and dozens of other fields. 200 years have passed, and the settlers are starting to surpass the spacers. Increasing the spacer worlds find that they cannot compete with the settlers. By this time, the fate of the spacer worlds has become clear. They can retreat into isolation like the Solarians, or maintain themselves in unchanging stasis like the Aurorans, or amalgamate with the settlers like the Infernals. The culture of the spacers has been transformed from the dominant human civilization to an ever less important backwater in the nascent galactic empire being formed by the settlers, the descendants of Earth. Finally concluding the review of Episode 6, I really appreciate your engaging interest and watching and listening to the YouTube video about Foundation. Looking forward to watching the next exciting episode. Until next time, goodbye.